Donald Trump has just fired off another round in his endless trade war. This time, the targets are not only steel, aluminum, or cars. He has turned his sights on lumber, on timber, on the very wood that frames American homes. He has gone after cabinets and vanities, the furniture that fills kitchens and bathrooms. He has even threatened the medicines in American cabinets by warning of 100% tariffs on branded pharmaceuticals if companies do not relocate their factories back inside the United States. And he is not stopping there. Heavy trucks are now in the crosshairs with a 25% tariff looming. The announcement dropped like a thunderclap. On September 29, 2025, the president signed a proclamation under Section 232 of the Trade Act of 1974, declaring that the import of timber and furniture posed a national security threat to the United States. Starting October 14th, a 10% tariff on timber and lumber will hit. A 25% tariff will fall on upholstered furniture, on cabinets, on bathroom vanities. And on January 1st, 2026, if countries refuse to strike deals with Washington, the duties will escalate even further. 30% for furniture, 50% for cabinets. It is an economic escalation dressed up in patriotic language. But the absurdity cannot be ignored. Cabinets as a national security threat, bathroom vanities as a danger to America's defense? It would be comical if the consequences were not so real. This is not about security. It's about power. It is about Trump's obsession with tariffs as weapons in his global economic game. Canada is once again the prime target. For decades, softwood lumber has been a battleground between Washington and Ottawa. About 30% of the softwood used in America comes from Canada. It is a lifeline for home builders, for contractors, for an industry already struggling with high interest rates and shortages. Canadian producers already face average tariffs of 35% from anti-dumping and countervailing measures. Now they face an extra 10%. That pushes their burden above 45%. For many sawmills, that is the difference between survival and closure. Executives are crying foul. Industry leaders say the logic is ludicrous. How can Canadian pine beams be a threat to U.S. tanks? How can a bathroom vanity compromise military security? They know this is not about national defense, it is about leverage, and it is about Trump showing his political base that he can punish foreign suppliers, even if those suppliers are America's closest allies. Prime Minister Mark Carney, Canada's newly elected leader, has responded in a way that highlights the difference between the two men. Trump thrives on chaos. He hurls threats. He improvises tariffs as if they were tweets. Carney, by contrast, is calm, deliberate, and strategic. Within days of the announcement, Carney unveiled a package of relief measures. $700 million in loan guarantees to keep forestry firms afloat, $500 million in grants to diversify markets and develop new products, and tens of millions for retraining programs to protect workers. He framed it not as panic, but as resilience. Canada, he declared, would not be bullied into dependence. Carney's words echoed across the border. Canada would diversify its trade. 2/3 of Canadian lumber already flows into the American market. 9 out of every 10 boards exported from Canada are nailed into American homes. That dependency is a vulnerability. Carney vowed to change it. Canada will turn to Europe, to Asia, to Africa. New markets will absorb Canadian lumber, even if the United States slams its doors. It will take time, he admits, but strategy is not measured in tweets. It is measured in decades. Meanwhile, American consumers are already paying the price. The Bureau of Labor Statistics has recorded the reversal of a trend that had favored families for years. For more than 2 years, furniture prices in the United States had been falling. Households could buy sofas, dining sets, and cabinets at lower costs. That relief is gone. In the last year, overall furniture prices have risen 4.7%. Living room and dining sets have soared nearly 10%. That is not theory. That is fact in the shopping aisles of ordinary Americans. And now, with tariffs climbing higher, those costs will climb faster. Every cabinet will cost more. Every dining table will cost more. Every construction project that requires imported wood will become more expensive. Builders estimate that Trump's tariffs have already added $9,200 to the price of a new home. For families squeezed by high mortgage rates, by rising rents, by stagnant wages, that is devastating. Trump promised to make life more affordable. Instead, his tariffs are making it harder to buy the basic American dream, a home. The U.S. housing market is already in crisis. Supply is low, prices are high, interest rates are punishing. Young families are being locked out of ownership, and lumber is at the heart of the problem. You cannot build homes without lumber. America has trees, yes, hundreds of billions of them, but it does not have the industrial capacity to mill, process, and deliver enough lumber to replace Canadian imports. You cannot flip a switch and suddenly replace 30% of the market. That is why Trump's tariffs are not just an annoyance, they are a chokehold. They strangle the very industry that Americans need most. Trump claims this is about strength, but in reality, it reveals weakness. His reciprocal tariff strategy, the idea that the U.S. should mirror the tariffs of every other country, has been struck down by two lower courts. The Supreme Court is reviewing it now. Facing legal setbacks, Trump is retreating to Section 232 as his fallback. It is a loophole, a blunt instrument he can swing without congressional approval. But using it to target bathroom vanities stretches credibility. Even the U.S. Chamber of Commerce has opposed these moves, warning they will raise costs, hurt exports, and damage communities that rely on wood. Business leaders are frustrated. Retailers are nervous. The stock prices of Wayfair, RH, and Williams-Sonoma have slipped as tariff threats loom. Trump is eroding shareholder value even before the tariffs hit. That is not making America great. That is making American companies weaker. The irony is political as well as economic. Trump's bullying has galvanized Canadian pride. During his campaign, Carney was trailing. But every insult from Trump, every tariff threat, every bizarre suggestion that Canada should become the 51st state fueled Canadian outrage. When Carney stood in the Oval Office and told Trump, "Canada is not for sale, not now, not ever," it became a moment of national pride. That firmness helped carry him to victory in the election. In trying to intimidate Canada, Trump may have created his toughest opponent yet. Carney is not stopping at domestic relief. He is traveling abroad, building alliances. In London, in Paris, in Singapore, in New Delhi, he is presenting Canada as a reliable partner for a turbulent world. He is turning Trump's unpredictability into an asset for Canada. While Trump burns bridges, Carney builds them. While Trump isolates America, Carney opens doors for Canada. Trump's latest proclamation even exposes favoritism. Britain gets a cap of 10%. The European Union and Japan are capped at 15%. Canada, America's closest ally and largest supplier, gets no relief at all. This is not coherent strategy. This is Trump playing favorites, punishing those who refuse to bow, rewarding those who flatter. It undermines U.S. credibility with allies. It tells the world that America under Trump cannot be trusted to honor its own trade agreements. This is not just about lumber or furniture. It is about governance. Trump governs by tantrum. He equates intimidation with leadership. He confuses taxes on consumers with victories over rivals. He cannot build, so he destroys. He cannot inspire, so he bullies. He cannot negotiate, so he threatens. That is the essence of his tariff policy. And it is why American families, not foreign governments, end up paying the bill. Carney, in contrast, is governing with strategy. He is creating funds. He is retraining workers. He is diversifying markets. That is how you build resilience. He is showing that leadership is not about stunts. It is about substance. Trump is creating dependency through chaos. Carney is creating independence through careful planning. The contrast is stark, and the world can see it. As the tariffs bite, three questions loom large. First, what will the Supreme Court decide? If the justices strike down Trump's reciprocal tariffs, his entire trade strategy could collapse, leaving only shaky Section 232 proclamations to carry his agenda. Second, how will the upcoming USMCA review unfold? Canada is preparing consultations with lawmakers, industry, and citizens to shape its position. Carney will push hard for protections against Trump's tariff games. Third, how much pain can American families endure before they rebel against the cost of these policies? $9,200 per home is not an abstract number. It is the difference between buying and being locked out of ownership. It is the kind of pain that voters remember. The truth is simple. Trump's tariff tantrums are not about national security. They are about ego. They inflate costs for American families. They damage businesses. They alienate allies. They undermine agreements. They make life harder, not easier. Carney's approach is the opposite. He protects workers. He builds resilience. He invests in the future. And that is why Trump's strategy will ultimately fail. Because you cannot build prosperity through intimidation. You cannot create growth through bullying, and you cannot secure allies by treating them as enemies. The world is watching this clash unfold. On one side, a U.S. president who wields tariffs like confetti, scattering them recklessly. On the other, a Canadian prime minister who responds with calm strategy, who refuses to bow, who uses adversity to strengthen his country. History teaches us that stunts fade, but strategy endures. Trump may create headlines. Carney is creating resilience, and that difference will shape the economic future of North America for years to come. The consequences of Trump's tariff campaign go beyond price tags. They ripple through industries, through communities, and through the very trust that underpins international trade. When the United States invokes national security to justify tariffs on bathroom vanities, it is not just Canada that takes notice. Every trading partner, from Europe to Asia, begins to wonder. If cabinets are a security risk, what will be next? Coffee beans, cell phones, children's toys? The unpredictability itself becomes the danger. That unpredictability has already reshaped corporate decisions. Companies that once viewed the United States as a safe market now factor in the possibility of sudden tariffs, unpredictable proclamations, and the risk of being branded a national security threat. Investment slows, supply chains shift, foreign producers look for alternative markets. Over time, this erodes America's central position in the global trading system. A system that was once built around U.S. leadership is now wobbling under U.S. unpredictability. Trump insists tariffs are making America richer. He points to the revenue flowing into government coffers as duties are collected at the border. But what he does not say is who pays those duties. It is not foreign governments. It is American importers. It is retailers. It is home builders. It is families. The tariff is a tax, plain and simple, a tax that raises costs and slows growth. Collecting more taxes from struggling families is not leadership. It is economic cruelty disguised as toughness. Consider the American dream of homeownership. Even before Trump's latest announcement, affordability had collapsed. Mortgage rates climbed to their highest in decades. Construction slowed. Young buyers were squeezed out. By adding new tariffs on lumber, Trump piles another weight onto the dream. Builders now estimate thousands of dollars in extra costs per house. That translates into fewer homes built, fewer jobs for construction workers, and more Americans priced out. It is not making America great again. It is making America less livable. The ripple spreads. Furniture retailers cut back orders. Small family-owned cabinet makers that rely on Canadian inputs face higher costs, forcing them to either raise prices or close shop. Trucking companies, facing higher duties on imported vehicles, must pass on costs to customers. Pharmaceutical companies consider relocating production not because it makes economic sense, but because they fear the threat of 100% tariffs. That is not a healthy economy. That is an economy driven by intimidation. Trump frames all of this as strength, but allies see desperation. Even within the United States, business voices warn of the damage. The Chamber of Commerce calls the lumber tariffs counterproductive. Home builders call them devastating. Retailers warn of job losses. And yet Trump pushes forward, convinced that tariffs prove his toughness. What they really prove is his stubbornness, his inability to craft real economic policy, his reliance on brute force rather than negotiation. Contrast that with Carney. In Canada, his government is not simply reacting to Trump's tariffs. It is using them as a catalyst for long-term change. Carney speaks of moving Canada from reliance to resilience, from uncertainty to prosperity. He points to history, reminding Canadians that their country has turned crises into opportunities before. He tells them that strategy, patience, and diversification will protect them. And he's acting on that promise. New funds for industries, new trade missions abroad, new agreements with partners in Asia and Europe. This is why Carney's reputation matters. He is not just another prime minister. He is an economist with global stature, a former governor of the Bank of England, a figure respected in capitals across the world. When he speaks of resilience, international audiences listen. When he calls for partnerships, other leaders respond. Canada under Carney is punching above its weight, precisely because Trump's chaos makes Canada look like a stable alternative. The irony grows deeper. Trump believes tariffs make him a global strongman, yet in practice, they make him weaker. Every tariff drives another wedge between the U.S. and its allies. Every proclamation undermines trust in U.S. commitments. Every increase in consumer costs fuels resentment at home. Meanwhile, Carney uses the opening to strengthen Canada's global standing. Trump thinks he is punishing Canada. In reality, he may be elevating it. The upcoming USMCA review will be a key test. Canada, the United States, and Mexico will sit down to reconsider the deal. Trump will push for more concessions. But Carney, armed with a fresh mandate from voters, will not bow easily. He will point to the absurdity of labeling Canadian lumber as a security risk. He will argue for stability, for predictability, for fair trade. He will frame Canada as a responsible partner versus an erratic neighbor, and he will have the support of industries, workers, and allies who are tired of living under constant tariff threats. At the same time, Trump faces legal peril. His broader tariff agenda has been challenged in court. Lower courts have struck down his reciprocal tariffs. The Supreme Court will now decide whether he has the authority to act as he pleases. If they rule against him, his arsenal will shrink. He will be left with Section 232 as his only weapon, a weapon he has already stretched to the point of absurdity. How long before judges, lawmakers, or allies say enough is enough? But until then, the damage mounts. A typical American family buying furniture now pays hundreds more than they did last year. A young couple hoping to buy a home faces thousands in extra costs. Trucking firms see higher bills. Hospitals fear drug shortages or price spikes. Inflation, which had shown signs of easing, is pressured upward again. The economy absorbs blow after blow, not from foreign enemies, but from the president's own hand. Trump's supporters argue that tariffs are leverage, bargaining chips that force other countries to the table. But history shows the opposite. Countries dig in, they retaliate, they diversify away from America. Canadian producers are already seeking new buyers. Asian economies are exploring new supply chains. Europe signs deals with Canada, with Mexico, with Japan. The United States, once the center of global trade, risks being isolated by its own belligerents. Carney frames it clearly: dependence on America is a vulnerability. He tells Canadians that building resilience means finding other partners, creating domestic strength, and refusing to let one man in Washington dictate their future. His government is backing those words with billions in funds, with new policies to use Canadian steel and lumber in domestic projects, with new negotiations abroad. It is not easy. It will not happen overnight. But it is a strategy, not a stunt. And that strategy resonates. Canadians, once anxious, now rally behind their leader. They see him as a defender of sovereignty, of dignity, of stability. They compare him with Trump and see the difference. Trump creates chaos. Carney creates order. Trump inflames. Carney reassures. In politics, perception matters. And right now, Carney looks like the adult in the room. The economic numbers are sobering. The National Association of Home Builders estimates that tariffs have added nearly $10,000 to the average home price. Furniture costs rise month after month. Consumer confidence dips as families struggle to afford basics. Businesses delay investment, uncertain what tariff might come next. In this climate, Trump brags about billions collected at the border. But those billions are not gifts from foreign rivals. They are taxes on Americans. They drain wallets. They choke growth. Even investors are wary. Stock markets wobble when Trump tweets threats of new tariffs. Shareholders in retail and construction firms brace for losses. Global partners hedge against exposure to the U.S. market. Slowly, the credibility of America as a stable economic partner erodes, and credibility once lost is not easily regained. This is why the world is watching. Other leaders know that Trump's approach is unsustainable. They see that his tariffs backfire. They understand that real strength lies not in intimidation, but in cooperation. They look at Carney and see a leader who, despite Canada's smaller size, is playing the long game. They see a country that refuses to be bullied, that is diversifying, that is building resilience. The bottom line is clear. Trump's tariffs are not protecting America. They are punishing Americans. They are not weakening Canada. They are strengthening Canada's resolve. They are not securing the economy. They are destabilizing it. Trump promised to put America first. But in practice, he is putting American families last, forcing them to bear the costs of his economic tantrums. And so the story continues. On one side, a president clinging to tariffs as his signature tool, even as they inflict pain at home and isolation abroad. On the other, a prime minister using those same tariffs as fuel to strengthen his country, to rally his people, to build new partnerships. It is a tale of two leaders, two strategies, Two visions of what economic leadership means. In the end, history will not remember the size of Trump's tariffs. It will remember their futility. It will remember the chaos they caused, the prices they raised, the allies they alienated. And it will remember the contrast, that while Trump created crisis after crisis, Canada under Carney quietly built resilience. That is the enduring lesson of this tariff war. Not that intimidation wins, but that strategy endures. If you believe these tariffs are making life harder, speak up. If you see through the illusion of strength, tell others. Because tariffs are not just numbers on paper. They are costs in your wallet, in your mortgage, in your furniture, in your medicines. They are the hidden tax of political theater. And as long as they continue, American families will pay the price.